Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Friday Night Live discussion. So glad that you've decided to tune in and spend a little bit of time with us tonight. Feel free to engage with us through the comments. We really are here and we really are live. So if you have questions or comments that you would like to share with us during this chat, please definitely do. We want to hear from you and see what you have to say. Tonight's topic, of course, is quite thematic based on the timing of the year. We're going to have a chat about Christmas tonight. And so I want to invite our panel to join me because we're going to dive straight in because we've discovered really that we run out of time very quickly. Hi, everyone. So glad you can join us tonight. Hi, Michael, Liam, Kimberly, Alan, and Janine. Great to have you
Hi.
tonight. I want to get started straight away, and I'm just going to start with our first question for tonight. And that is, I just want to ask you, growing up, what did Christmas mean to you? Did you celebrate it? Did you not celebrate it? Like, what was Christmas to you growing up?
For my family, a lot of it was like a really great family get together. I really enjoyed that. And it was also a good time to, get presents and gifts as well.
Yeah.
I probably go back further in the group, much further back when talking about childhood. So let us go right far back there. I grew up as a Catholic, and I was we celebrated Christmas in a very special way. It was a very special time, and I remember it was a very special time as a child. Indeed, mom we were not that very rich at all. We were very poor by today's standard, and mom would be saving the whole year to buy present for for the kids. I mean, it was a large family back then, and we were nine of us. So, but every year, mom will be making an effort to have presents. So, as Liam says, Christmas was a fantastic time for us. It was a real joy for the children, but we would be going to the midnight mass and coming home, walking home. All that was in my mind is, what is Father Christmas going to bring for me tomorrow morning?
Wow.
And I'll be waiting for it because it was a big thing that Father Christmas will be coming home. And I tried my very best to stay awake all night,
Wow.
to catch Father Christmas bringing the present. And it never happened. Somehow
Yeah,
I
I
fell
think many,
asleep.
many
It's very
children,
sneaky.
many children, I think, have sat up hoping to catch. Anyone else would like to share about their experience of, I guess, Christmas? Yes, Kimberly.
Growing up, I guess being a part of like a split family, it can be hard to I guess celebrate Christmas, but I got to give it to my parents because both of them really put in so much time and effort every single Christmas. Even though they weren't together, they still, made me feel really special. So yeah, I always celebrated Christmas. It was always a good time of the year. Yeah.
Thank you. Michael, what about you?
Maybe Janine would like to go first.
Well, I used to really, really look forward to Christmas. My mum used to have the nativity decorations around the house. She used to be very into Christmas. She was doing all the cooking beforehand for weeks beforehand, and it was a big family get together. And she would have all the Christmas presents underneath the tree, and I was a little bit naughty. I did sometimes sneak and look to see. I remember one year I did that, and it didn't. But I just, it was about the presents. I could hardly sleep that night. I couldn't wait to get up, and I remember feeling very tired the next day. But we were just so excited about, the presents and just being with one another, and it was just such a lovely family get together. And we were very, very excited about the toys, rightly or wrongly, but we were.
For me, it was bananas and oranges. Growing up under communism, that was the only time we had bananas and oranges in the shops.
Wow.
So it was a privilege when Christmas came. It was a treat to have bananas, oranges. But I tell you, the oranges that we had, I haven't tasted oranges so tasty and uh, um,
Juicy.
juicy, and the aroma of those oranges. And now I know why they came from Greece. The oranges that came from Greece are just amazing, amazing, amazing. I've never. So we used to peel them in Australia. You can't peel oranges, okay? So you can peel them, but it's very hard. Those oranges, it's so easy to peel, and then you'll have just you take one by one, slice by slice. Oh, I still remember. That was the treat under communism. It was the best they could do. We are very happy. We are very happy.
Praise the Lord.
It's always interesting to me, everyone's experience can be quite different of Christmas, no matter what age we are. When we think back, I guess, to being a kid or younger, and we reflect on Christmas, we often will have memories, and it will be, food related or family related or the gifts or things like that. But I guess now I want you to kind of look at the world around you today. And how do you think the world, what does Christmas feel like today? When you look at the world around you today, the shops, the programs on TV, what does Christmas look like today, do you think?
It's become very commercialized, I find. And when I used to buy my Christmas cards at the supermarket, I used to always be able to find ones with the nativity scenes and the three wise men and all this kind of thing. But in the last few years, I found that all I can find is Santa Claus, reindeers, penguins, and things like that. But I just can't find any religious ones in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. It's really dramatically changed. I can't see the Christ in Christmas. Where is it in the stores when you go to buy what it's all about? It's just Santa and North Pole kind of things, elves, but not the Christ that it's all celebrated about.
And if it's interesting that if you go and just stop the car somewhere on the freeway, you'll see guys with the trucks, with the trailers, hooked up with the dirt bikes, going for the weekend to have fun. You'll see all kinds of things, but yeah, I think people are trying to make the most of it. But in terms of entertainment, pleasures, it has nothing spiritual in what we see around us today.
Yeah, it has lost that spiritual meaning completely. And I think also is business nowadays, commerce has taken over everything, every celebration. The moment Christmas is over, you see the next thing, and it's a cycle of business opportunities and commercial opportunities, and Christmas is just a major part of that, and it's the biggest time of sales and everything, unfortunately, and we've lost Christ in the middle of Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Alan. That I when I watch at the moment, there's this push and this drive for buy more, get more. You've got ads for trees and presents, and there's this real commercial push, but it's not really Christmas, is it? And I saw the comment that just came up about happy holidays. The language has changed. We're not saying Merry Christmas. We're saying, season greetings and happy holidays and
festive
things
season.
like that. Yeah, festive season. So it is quite interesting. And like you, Janine, I've noticed that with the Christmas cards. as well that's quite hard to find unless I actually go to a Christian bookshop. It's very hard to find, cards with nativity scenes on them. So the world today, I think, has lost probably sight, as you mentioned, the Christ in Christmas, and it has really become quite just an opportunity for consumer paradise. Buy. And yes, spending time with family, and of course that's the lovely part of this time of the year, the Christmas time, that we do get to come together with family. But when we have generations of kids growing up and their only exposure to Christmas is actually through the lens of the secular world, it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be alive, I think, when Christmas seems to have lost its Christ. I want to turn to the Bible in a moment and see what the Bible teaches about Christmas, or what it has to say about Christmas. But I thought we would do just something fun for a couple of seconds. And I've got a little Bible quiz, and I know we don't have any buzzers or anything like that, but I'm just going to ask a couple of questions and we'll just see how we go with what we know about the Christmas story based on the Bible. All right, are you ready?
As ready as we'll ever be.
Which city did Mary? Okay, good. Which city did Mary and Joseph travel to for the census?
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem.
Excellent, well done. All right, who appeared to tell Mary that she was going to have a baby?
Oh, the angel Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Thanks. Okay, how many angels spoke to the shepherds?
It was one initially, and then a group of them came together.
A whole group.
Okay, very good. We're doing good. Who followed a star to find the baby?
The wise men.
The Magi.
All right. These questions have been really easy, but I'm sure that this one might make you think. How did Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem?
On the donkey. On the donkey.
Does the Bible say donkey?
I think they missed the plane.
I'm not sure whether we have the detail. I know the journey to Egypt, but I'm not sure whether we have the detail, the means of transportation. I'm not too sure.
Definitely, there's no donkey in the picture.
There's no donkey, but we've definitely put a donkey. But what about one more question? How many wise men came to see baby Jesus?
No number is given, but there were 3 gifts presented.
I think there are more than 3. For the safety of the journey, I think there are more than 3.
Yeah. But I think the fact that 3 different presents were given, mentioned, therefore it's been presumed that there were 3 wise men.
Yeah. That seems like a pretty good answer.
Yes, very much so. The Bible does not actually tell us how many wise men, but of course we do sing "We Three Kings" of Orient Are, as well.
Pretty good answer.
But very much based on, I think, yes, that 3 gifts are mentioned, and so there is an assumption that there was 3 wise men. But let me open up the discussion, though. Let's talk about the Bible story of Christmas. Now, where and how does this story actually begin?
In Nazareth. Gabriel went to Mary while she was in Nazareth.
Or maybe it starts in Jerusalem. It looks like there's some interference there. What we hear, some background noise. I think it starts in Jerusalem, doesn't? With Zechariah having the vision in the temple, and Elizabeth having a baby, isn't?
What do you
Yeah.
guys think? I'm wanting to hear you telling me.
Oh, well, in verse 26, it does say that in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth to a virgin betrothed. But maybe that's not at the beginning.
Well, it depends. Did you want to start it off from that point, or did you want to start it off with John the Baptist?
The announcement.
Or maybe even before John the Baptist,
Yeah.
because we know that the plan for Jesus to come, for the Son of God to come on this planet, actually it was made
In
from
Genesis.
eternity, from
Yes,
before
true.
Genesis. See, that was a secret that was kept in God's heart for eternity, and when the time came,
Uh,
that's when the plan was revealed.
yeah.
And
It was the backup plan.
yeah, so I don't know how far Sylvia wants to go.
That's true.
But definitely, we know that God was not taken by surprise when Adam and Eve fell. So he came up with a kind of improvisation, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do we do now? So
Yeah.
what
He
if?
wasn't caught out. God wasn't
No,
caught out there.
no. So the planning came from much, much before that. And when we read actually Micah chapter 5 verse 2, that's when he talks about eternity. His existence came from eternity.
Correct.
So Jerusalem, Nazareth, before time began, the story of Christmas seems to have a few starting points here based on what I've heard. But the story as we tell it today, the starting point I think we tend to focus on is Nazareth, isn't it?
Mm.
Yep.
So what is it about this story that captures our imagination, do you think?
That that such it just what hits me is that he's the God of the impossible, because she's a virgin yet she conceived. It just goes to show, it tells me a lot about who God is, and that there's nothing that's impossible for him. In fact, later on, when Mary asks the angel Gabriel, but how shall this be, he does let her know in detail how it will be, and he says, for nothing will be God. And she accepts that, and she says, let it be done as you have said. And to show great faith, she seems to know that there is no limit with the God that she serves.
Yeah.
I think it's clear we have we serve a God of supernatural things. It's a supernatural, and there is no issue with that at all. We have a mighty, powerful God, and He's we call the miraculous conception of Jesus. Is that acknowledged, but we need to be careful also that there is the counterfeit of supernatural as well. you know and so both can, and God is a supernatural God. Our God is, and he create things out of nothing.
Mm.
Mm.
Another point of this story is just the innocence of this story. So God decided to come on this earth not like in full armor, to impress us, and with thunder and fire and brimstone. He decided to come on this earth as a baby. There is always something innocent about a baby. When there is a baby in the story, everyone has to keep quiet. Everyone has to stop, because a baby is a symbol of purity. So God decided to come on this earth uh, in a baby, as a pure human being that is born on this earth. And as far as I know, every time a baby is born, there is so much joy. So there is joy twice in our family and in many other families. when babies are born. It's something special about a new life that appears on this earth. And in the light of prophecy, in the light of understanding actually how important that baby was, all the joy surrounding that event, it still, I think, impresses on our hearts. And yeah,
Mm.
it, that's how I feel.
Mm.
Yeah. And it also shows how meek our Creator is, that He would not only condescend to come down to become a man, but to become a man in the helpless condition of a baby, dependent on frail and very faulty human beings. Just so, like, you can't get any more humble or meek than that.
Mm. I think
Mm.
interesting. The whole setting is really displaying humility and how God, the King of the universe, the Creator of this planet, and yet come as a baby, vulnerable as it is, and born in a manger, not in a palace, not
Amen.
among the elite, of the nation, but with a carpenter as father, you know and in a manger, no place for him, even in the inns, in the bed and breakfast sort of place. They had to go in a manger of a farm or something like that. So it's very, very humility. And Nazareth is mentioned, the place where he's coming, in Bethlehem. He grew up in Nazareth, to the point where they say, what good can come out of Nazareth? It was not the Turak of the suburb of Melbourne, something like that. So yeah, it's in a great humility to show that he's come for the very lowest, for all the sinners, for all of us.
Mm.
It's quite the amazing concept that Jesus Christ, who is God Himself, who is infinite, made this huge condescension, and He humbled Himself so much. He emptied Himself, as we see in Philippians chapter 2, verse 7, and He temporarily emptied Himself of His omniscient knowledge, His all-knowing knowledge, and we can deduct that also from Luke chapter 2, verse 52, which said that Christ increased in knowledge.
Mm,
If he increase, it means his knowledge is an infinite, if that makes sense. Because if it was infinite, there'd be nothing to increase. So it's amazing that Jesus Christ, would humble himself to that much of an extent, and it was through Christ's frailty that he ultimately defeated Satan and bruised Satan's head.
mm,
So the Christmas story itself, it's not a story of power. It's not a story of kings, and it's not a story of warriors the way we tell it. It's a story of a little baby born in the most humblest of conditions, with two young parents who have only just recently married. Joseph almost
mm,
quietly got rid of Mary because of the
mm,
embarrassment of her becoming pregnant, out of wedlock. It's a
mm,
story that has shepherds and angels and wise men. This is the Christmas story as we retell it. It's a nativity story that we see year after year in many churches. And when you can find those Christmas cards, these are the scenes that we see. But I want to come back to, actually, Michael just touched on something before, prophecy. And I want to ask, how is it that this Christmas story, with all those components that we've touched on, how does this Christmas story connect actually to Bible prophecy?
I think many of the prophets foretold about this in many ways. Jeremiah, Isaiah, prophesied about this, and the whole nation of Israel has been waiting for, and they've been told about this coming Messiah, but they had a completely mm, mm, miscomprehension of the understanding. They were expecting him to come as King of Kings, as a powerful power to come in and freeing them from the Roman power. Uh, and they misunderstood the whole thing. But the prophecy was there, and they were expecting it. They just didn't expect it to happen the way it happened.
Mm.
It was prophecy that got the wise men looking out for Jesus at his birth. And what was absolutely amazing was that the expectation of Christ's birth, the wise men had it, but the professed people of God, the Jewish nation, they had no idea. And if you can read their reaction to the wise men looking out for the Messiah in the gospel account, it's quite astounding that you have non-Jews expecting Christ's birth, but not his own people.
Mm.
I was listening to a presentation this week, and the presenter said the Jewish people misunderstood. They mistook the second coming as the first coming, and the first coming as the second coming. So they expected the first coming to be glorious and majestic, and it was actually very modest and very simple. And now people are expecting the second coming to be like a secret, like, a very low profile, when actually the Bible says it will be like in
The
full
opposite.
glory of God. It will be the opposite. So yeah, we can make this type of mistakes. But you mentioned prophecy. It's interesting that the Bible shows exactly Bethlehem, the place where Jesus was going to be born, as I said, Micah 5, chapter 2. So hundreds of years before Jesus was born. And the priests, it's interesting, when the Magi came to Jerusalem to inquire of the baby, the priests knew that prophecy. They knew that the baby was going to be born in the city of David. They knew that. So this is one of them, but there are quite a few. Maybe other members of the panel would like to mention some other verses.
Well, I have Isaiah 53 we call is as the gospel chapter of Isaiah there, and his whole ministry is described there beautifully, and especially his end time of his life, how he's rejected and everything, and how that fits in perfectly. But the birth, as Pastor Mohani mentioned here, the birth in Micah is very clear to the place and the timing and everything. We have the actual, in Daniel, we have the actual prophecy of the time when this will happen itself. And it's amazing. Throughout the Bible, in the Old Testament, there are so many references about pointing to the Lamb of God to come. And just before his birth, we see even John the Baptist talking about it before Jesus started his ministry, anticipating and telling the crowd there that who is coming just after him. So the whole thing was prophesied very heavily.
I think for me, the prophecy in Isaiah, is it Isaiah 9?
It's chapter 9, verse 6, which I have
Yeah.
over here.
Yep. And the other one, is that in Isaiah 7? The virgin will conceive?
7:14, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, there were some prophecies that were written a long time before Jesus came on the scene, which really were quite remarkable. And I think, the Isaiah 7:14, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign, is what Isaiah wrote, a sign. Look, the virgin is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. And I think, again, this is just one prophecy. I know there are scholars who have counted up the number of prophecies that point to Jesus' first coming and also to his second coming, and there are just so many. And then when they've done the statistical probabilities of these, Jesus even fulfilling just one or two of these prophecies, it was just this huge number. And yet he fulfilled all of them.
Every
And
single
they,
one.
they just say statistically it's just, impossible. But, as God's word says, nothing is impossible for God. Liam, I think you were going to say something and I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, all good, all good. I had Isaiah 9:6 here to read, but before I read that, does anyone know what the name Emmanuel means?
God with us.
God with us. And how precious is that? God himself with us. And we see in chapter 9, verse 6 of Isaiah, for a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. It's a very, very precious verse, Isaiah 9:6.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw a bit of a tricky question in now, because I just looked at the time and I went, oh, look, we're already running out of time again. But I wanna throw in a question. And firstly, I'll make a comment. When I read the Bible, I see a Christmas story. Okay, I use those terms obviously in descriptive ways. I'm not saying it's a fiction or just a fancy narrative, but I see prophecies, and I see them being fulfilled at the birth of Christ. I see the story of Mary and Joseph. I see the wise men who have followed the star. I see the shepherds who have the good news announced by angels. And I see that it is a memory that needs to be, or a story that needs to be told so that we may remember the birth of our Saviour Jesus. Now, one of the quiz questions I forgot to ask, and I'm going to ask it now, is, was Jesus actually born on December 25?
Definitely not.
The Bible doesn't say so. The Bible doesn't actually give a date. And so the tricky question, and Liam, I'll throw to you, but the tricky question I want to throw to is, I believe the Christmas story, and I believe it's in the Bible. Why is it that some Christians do not celebrate Christmas? And I think it's connected to December 25 as well. But Liam, I know you were going to speak first. I'll go to Liam
first.
and then I'll come to you. I may have just opened Pandora's box, and I do apologise. But
no, it's a good one. It's an important one. It's a very good one, an important one. Liam.
Yes. In regards to how we can know that Jesus actually wasn't born around the December 25 time, or at least how can we know that it's very unlikely? First off, that time of year in that part of the world at the time would have been very, very cold. And we know from Luke chapter 2 that Caesar Augustus was taking a census at that time of year. Sorry, at the time of year of Jesus' birth. And it's very, why would he cause all these people to travel at such a cold time of year? It's not very practical. So it's more likely he would, have that census when the weather would be better and more favorable. And in addition to that, there is evidence to suggest when Jesus was most likely born, not the exact date. We don't know the exact date. It's good that we don't know, because if we knew, people might be idolizing that particular date. But we can know the approximate time of year. And we can deduct this by knowing that Jesus began his ministry. Jesus was crucified in March, right? March time of the year, at the Passover time. And we know that 3.5 years before that, because his ministry went for 3.5 years, 3.5 years before that, he was baptized. And that 3.5 years backwards, if you go from March, 3.5 years, that would bring you to September, October time of year. And then you just backtrack 30 years, because we know according to Luke chapter 3 that Jesus was baptized at about him being at about 30 years of age, and that's also when he began his ministry, at about that age, about the turning of the age of 30 years old. And then we just backtrack 30 years from that, and that brings us to September, October time. So that's quite likely the period of time that he was born, approximately.
Thanks, Liam. Alan, over to you.
Yeah, I think the issue of the 25th of December is an issue. As you said, the historical fact is that Jesus was born. There is no denial. It's well documented. Okay, when exactly we do not know, as Liam has explained, and it is definitely not in December. So there are two things. When people are talking about Christmas, are they talking about the historical fact or event, or the date, 25th of December? The 25th of December, we know its origin is pagan. Okay, and there's nothing to think. But the historical fact of Jesus' birth is a certainty. Now, today in Australia, we celebrate the Queen's birthday all over the world, in the Commonwealth world, the British Commonwealth. The Queen's birthday is celebrated all over different days, not on the Queen's actual birthday, but there is a celebration of the Queen's birthday holiday. You know, in Victoria, we have it in June, the first weekend of June, and different places have it different time. It is celebrating an event, but the date is not corresponding matching at all. And we need to remember that the 25th of December is not the actual birthday of Jesus, but the actual event is a certainty. And it is an opportunity for us to remember that, because it is a fundamental point of our whole Christianity, depends on it. The fact that Christ came, left heaven, came and lived here, and had his ministry and died for us, and that is something that we should remember. We should never forget and celebrate that.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Alan. Michael?
You know that we could have had the record of Jesus' birth, because we know that Joseph and Mary went with Jesus to be registered at the temple, like we have in Victoria. We have births, deaths, and marriages department that is recording, all these events. But what happened in year 70? The temple was destroyed, so we lost it. We lost it. But that could have been such an amazing document. We know that the Jewish people have kept records of genealogical records for hundreds of years. We know that when we read the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, with the captives coming back from captivity. So that would have been so amazing, but we lost it. I think there is a reason. There is a reason for that Jesus' birth was not registered in the Bible. Maybe the disciples knew it. I don't know. They could have checked it, with the records at the temple. They knew it, but I don't think they consider it that important to be celebrated and to be recorded in the Bible. So I wonder why. I wonder why they didn't think that day was that important to be passed on to the next generations. And maybe when we look around us, we find out the answer. Because actually people start to worship to a day. They don't worship to a person. People start to worship their pleasures and entertainment and whatever people do during this time. But how many people actually, they have a prayer meeting, they meet together and they say, let's just thank the Lord, thank God for this great gift that was given to us in Jesus Christ, Emmanuel with us. So there might be an answer to that question, why we don't have the record of Jesus' birth.
Yeah, I think it's probably in God's foresight. He knew that if we did have the actual date and time and all of those things, that it might be too tempting for people to do time setting from it for his second return. And and we know that no one knows the day or the hour. So I think that maybe that's why it's left in obscurity.
Yeah, good points. We've probably only got about 2 minutes left before we need to finish up for tonight. I think what I would say is I really like what Alan touched on before, is that, celebrating Christmas is not the celebration of the date, because we don't know the date. And it's not, for those of us who actually believe in the Bible and believe in the historical accuracy of Christ's birth, celebrating Christmas can be celebrating the event, remembering the event, and using it as an opportunity to actually share the good news, to actually share the glory of Christ at this time. Knowing that, yes, December 25 may not be his birthday, it's not his birthday, but a lot of the world is very open to hearing about it at this time of the year. And so why not use this opportunity to share the good news of Jesus and his birth? Because when we share the good news of his birth, we can also share the good news of his life and the good news that was made for us through his death. So I want to finish with this final question, and just a couple of words from each of you so we can finish up. 2020, here we are. 2020 Christmas is upon us. What does it look like for you this year? Because it has been a very unusual year. So what does it look like for you? So just short answers, and then we're going to wind up for tonight. I'll just go around, and next to me is Michael.
Oh, okay. So we are thinking of inviting some people over, but people that usually we don't mingle with. So we are looking at inviting some families that we are not usually very close. Usually, you have next to you the closest, but this time we want to do the opposite, the other way around. So, yeah. So to have just, a few people with us and celebrate and remember the gift of God.
Fantastic. Thanks, Michael. Liam, you're next.
Yes. So fortunately, where we live in Melbourne, Victoria, the COVID cases are quite low, so we are free to have our family get together like we quite often usually would at Christmas time, and this time it's at our place, and I'll let Mum elaborate on that more further when it's written.
Well, Janine, I think you can pick up there and tell us what's happening at your place.
Well, we're making up for all the time in isolation. We're not only having one side of the family over, all of them, but we're having the other side as well. So all of them, and then their families. It's going to be a very, very, very big thing. So big, we've had to organise all these chairs, tables. It's going to be a very big event. Big Christmas. It's like have you heard of my big Greek wedding? It's going to be a big Greek Christmas. Our household.
Sounds good to me. What about you, Alan?
Well, as you said, it's been a tough year, and it's been a tough year for us as a family as well this year. And normally Christmas is a very big thing for us. We have 2-3 families, different families come together. We celebrate it together. But this year is going to be a more low-key stuff for us this year. It's going to be just a little family of us and more low-key. Yeah.
Yep. And Kimberly, what about you?
So this year, my family are planning to travel to New South Wales. We're not sure how that's going to go with the current cases there at the moment. But my dad's mum lives in New South Wales, so we're hoping to see her and just have a small family get together. So yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, the thing that comes through every time is just being with family, isn't it? I mean, this is the time of the year where we get to celebrate the greatest event in human history, the birth of Jesus, our Saviour, but also it draws us closer to our family, and we can use it as an opportunity to share that good news.
We haven't heard your plan, Sylvia. Yeah, your plan.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty excited. We're in our new home as of last week. And so we're going to have Christmas here this year, just myself, family, and my brother and his family. So a small gathering, but really looking forward to just being together. Yeah, I love the cooking and the being together and just spending that time. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Well, we're going to finish up for tonight, and we're going to do something a little different tonight, seeing as it's our last one for the year, and it was a topical discussion about Christmas. We want to finish with a beautiful song tonight that we're going to play in a moment called Mary, Did You Know? It's a lovely song, and as we finish with that, we'll end the broadcast and look out for us next year when we come back together and have some more Friday Night Live discussions. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, panel, for being a part of the discussion. We look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Thank you all, and
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas
God
to you all.
bless.
Merry
God bless.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All the best.
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? And this child that you delivered will soon deliver you.